There we go. So remember, if you have a left or right shift, so if we're going left or right and you end up with something like this, then you have to FOIL x plus 2 times x plus 2 and work it out. Okay, work it out. So the question that someone had asked about, a couple people have asked about overall, the one that everybody was not loving was problem number 32. So let's look at this one. First thing we need to do is a horizontal shrink. So horizontal shrink, okay, by 1/2. So when you do a horizontal shrink by 1/2, you're going to replace x with what? 2x. Remember, reflect it or reciprocate it, 2x. So everywhere I see an x, which in this case, the only place I see an x is, and I guess I don't love this question, because here you get 2x plus 6 squared plus 3. And then down 1. And then when you go down 1, what do you do? What do you do when you guys go down 1? Subtract 1. So now I'm going to go ahead and work out this at one time. This is 2x plus 6 times what? 2x plus 6, and then on the end I'd have plus what? 2. Okay, let's FOIL. What do you guys get when you FOIL? 4x squared. This would give me plus 12x, which gives me plus 24x plus 36 plus 2, which is 38. Is everybody okay with how I did those first two? Now it wants you to reflect over the x-axis. What do you do when you reflect over x? We change what? Y. Y is what? Everything. So you put a negative in front of the whole thing. And now when I distribute that negative, I get a final answer of negative 4x squared minus 24x minus 38. Now, the hard part on this one was the vertex. So let's go back and think about this. Where was the vertex to start with? Okay, where was the vertex to start with? Which way did it go? Left 6, up 3. So my vertex started at left 6 and up 3, right? So it was over there. So my vertex started at negative 6, 3. When I do a horizontal shrink, does that affect my vertex? No. Okay, and actually it does. Yeah, I don't like the vertex on this problem. It affects the x. It doesn't affect when it's at 0, 0, because if you multiply 0 by anything, what do you get? 0. But now when you multiply 0 by 1/2, what do you get? Or, I'm sorry, negative 6 by 1/2, what do you get? So now it's at negative 3, 3. Now when you shift it down 1, what are you going to get? Negative, you're going down 1, negative 3, 2. And now when you reflect, so now you're at negative 3, 2. All right. And now when you reflect over the x-axis, that means you change y. This becomes negative. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to teach you a different way in the coming days to find the vertex of standard form. Opposite of b over 2a. You might remember that. Yeah, we're going to learn that. Okay. Yes.
Why didn't you FOIL 28?
Why didn't I FOIL 28?
Yeah.
I didn't FOIL 28? No, you didn't have to.
It was just I thought didn't you say if you shift left or right?
Well, okay, so what did 28 ask me to do? It just, all it said here was describe the transformation. It didn't say to write the new equation.
Oh, okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? These ones, they wanted you to write the rule. So when you write the rule, you FOIL it out. This one, they wanted you to, they just gave you the rule. And it's in what's called vertex form. We're going to spend a lot of time in the coming days with vertex form, standard form. So I'll make sure you guys know on the quiz which ones you have to FOIL out. Okay? That's a good question, actually. All right. What else? What else? Okay. We're going to go ahead and start our notes for today. So pass the blue papers in. Go back to graphing some. Graphing. Okay. All right. So our next quiz for you guys is only over, I think, sections 1 and 2. Let me go look, but I think it's only over sections 1 and 2. And, thank you. All right. Honors Algebra 1, sections 1 and 2. And it will be a no graphing calculator quiz. Okay? I will give you the little red ones, the old ones that you had from middle school and last year. Do you remember the little ones? Some of you still have those. Okay, if you have them, throw them in your bag over the weekend. Bring them back to school. Keep them in your bag because every now and then we do that. We give tests where I still like to use the little calculators, but not the graphing calculators. Why do we do that? Because when you take AP Calc, which many of you will take AP Calc, part of the AP Calc test is with a graphing calculator, and part of it is no calculator at all. Okay, so we prepare you for, I'm getting you kind of ready for that test. So some of what we do is with the graphing calculator, some of what we do is without the graphing calculator. So these first 2 sections will be no graphing calculator. I will give you a calculator to do the math with, though, okay, because some of you I know definitely need it. So, do you guys remember the axis of symmetry? Do you remember the word line of symmetry, axis of, if something's symmetrical, what's it mean? Same on both sides. You might remember getting a picture when you were younger. You had like a half of a butterfly, and you had a color, draw the other half of the butterfly, make it the exact same. Okay, that line down the middle where it's the same on both sides is the line of symmetry or axis of symmetry. All of our parabolas also have an axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry will cut that parabola in half. It's the vertical line that cuts our parabola in half. Okay? Cuts it in half. It will always go through the vertex. It will always go through the vertex. So if your vertex is the point HK, maybe 3, 2. Let's just say this is the point over 3 up 2. Your axis of symmetry, well, which axes does this cross, X or Y? It crosses X at what number? 3. So it would be X equals 3. You have to give me X equals for the axis of symmetry. It's the equation of that vertical line. Vertical lines have X equals as their equation. Okay, so that's what all of this says. Okay, that's what all of this says. So let's look at our first topic. Graph each function, label the axis of symmetry. I'm going to tell you, you must have 5 points on your graph. No graphing calculators. Now, you can have your calculators out right now to use the numbers buttons, but no hitting the graph buttons. No hitting the graph buttons. Okay, so I don't want you using graph. I don't want you hitting table, but you're welcome to use the numbers buttons. So what I'd like to do is first look at this graph and let's talk me through what is happening to this graph. So Lucas, what's happening to this graph? What's the negative going to make it do? Reflect over X. Okay, what's the 2 going to make it do? Vertical stretch by 2. Has that affected from my parent function, has that affected my vertex at all? No. Now what's it going to do? Left 3, and then what? Up 4. So does everybody agree with what Lucas said for our 4 transformations? So your vertex, okay, my vertex was here, right here. And we reflected over x. Okay, that didn't move. We stretched it vertically. 0 times 2 is still 0. That didn't change. But now I have to move this left 3 and up 4. So what is my new vertex? It's at what? -3, 4. So that's one thing you have to tell me is the vertex. Well, once we know the vertex, we also know the axis of symmetry. It will always cut this parabola in half. I hate when that board jumps. Okay, we'll always cut this parabola in half. So I'm going to draw this. I usually draw mine as dashed because they're not really part of the graph. So the axis of symmetry is the equation what? X equals -3. Good. There's my equation for my line of symmetry. So it said find the vertex, did that. Find the equation for the line of symmetry, did that. Graph the function using 5 points. Well, we're going to make a really little table of values. And we really only need to pick 2 more points because once I pick 2 more points, then I can just reflect them because they're equal on both sides. So I'm just going to go to one side. It doesn't matter which side you go, one side or the other. I'm going to come over here. What's the next closest x value? Because then my numbers won't get real big or real small. What's the next closest x value to the axis of symmetry? -3. What's the -2? What's the next closest? -1. So those are the 2 x values that I'm going to use. And now you're just going to plug -2 back into your equation. Now, a lot of you will do this in your head. What's -2 plus 3? What's 1 squared times -2 plus 4? 2. Okay, those of you who are calculator dependent, -2 parentheses -2 plus 3, parentheses squared, plus 4. Plug in -1. Did you guys know, let me show you something. Did you know if you entered this in your calculator, do you see above enter, it says entry? Okay, since I already put this in with -2, I can go second entry. Or those of you with the newer calculators, you can just go up and hit, like it'll go up and you highlight the entry you want and press enter and it'll bring it down. And now I can go back and just retype over top of, too far, over -2. Now I want -1. And now hit enter. And you get -4. Or do it by hand. So now I'm going to graph these 2 points. So at -2, I have +2. And at -1, I have -4. Does this look like half of a parabola that opens down? Mm-hmm. How do I get the other 2 points? Because I told you had to have 5, and right now you only have 3. Reflect them. This one gets matched over here. This one gets matched right there. And now I have enough points to graph my parabola. But remember, it is a U, not a V. Make it look like a U. Put arrows because it goes on forever. Okay, questions? Okay, next one. What's the 0.5 going to do, Jack? Okay, vertical compression or shrink, either way, by 0.5. Okay, does that affect my vertex if I multiply y by 0.5? Because 0 by 0.5, no. Then what's the +4 going to make it do? Left 4, and then what? Down 2. So your vertex went left 4 down 2. What's the equation of your vertex? Okay, that would be the axis of symmetry. Okay, so the axis of symmetry is x equals -4. The vertex is the point what?
It would be -4, -2.
There you go. You guys see how I could get that information? And it should be symmetrical about that line. Now, Jack, I'm going to pick a couple points. What x values do you want to pick?
-3 and -2.
Perfect. -3 and -2. The closer you pick points to the axis of symmetry, the like your numbers won't get really, really big or really, really small. They'll be more manageable. All right, I'll give you guys a minute to fill in that chart. Go. All right. What'd you guys get for -3? Everybody. -1.5. What'd you get for -2? Did you get 0? Mm-hmm. So now let's graph those. At -3, I have -1.5. And at -2, I have 0. And now I'm just going to take and I'm going to reflect those points. So that it is symmetrical about that axis of symmetry. And draw my graph. Did I answer all the questions that it asked me? I think I did, didn't I? Yeah. Okay, so when you do this tonight, no graphing calculators. By that I mean not hitting the graph buttons. Must graph 5 points. Identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry. What do you guys think? All right, you got the rest of class time to get started. 7, 8, 10, 13 through 16.